Business meeting to order. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Here.
Campson?
Here.
Clanton?
Present.
Gabriel?
Present.
Jordan?
Here.
Smith?
Here.
And Martin.
Here. Okay, first on the agenda, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Which one of, on the agenda it says Ms. Burrs, but you want George? Okay. Okay, please stand.
To the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just a moment. Okay. All right, we have, first on our list, we have the student musical performance. Is that available? Okay.
Think of me fondly when we said goodbye. Remember me once in a while, please promise me you'll try. When you find that once again you long to take your heart back and be free, if you ever find a moment, spare a thought for me. We never said our love was evergreen or as unchanging as the sea. But if you can still remember, stop and think of me. Think of all the things we've shared and seen. Don't think about the things which might happen. Think of me waking silent and resigned. Imagine me trying too hard to put you from my mind. Recall those days, look back on all those times. Think of the things we'll never do. There will never be a day when I won't think of you. We never said our love was evergreen or as unchanging as the sea. But please promise me that sometimes you will think. Ha 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 of me.
Armand Newkirk, he's a Norview High School All-State Chorus Delegate under direction of their musical director, Sarah Tillman.
Wonderful. That was such a treat to hear our musical talent. So thank you for that. Next on our agenda, we have our superintendent's report. Dr. Birdsong.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair Martin, Vice Chairman Jordan, members of our community, and members of the school board. Thank you for the opportunity this evening to share a few updates with you. As we get closer to wrapping up the school year, there's so many successes to be proud of and celebrate since our return to in-person instruction. We've successfully welcomed back all 3 phases of student groups to in-person learning, and of course we're excited about that. We've had a wonderful fall athletic season. We continue to provide healthy, nutritious meals for our students, and we're hosting vaccination clinics in our schools for students 16 years and older. Our administrators, teachers, and staff have continued to ensure that we provide a healthy, safe, and engaging learning environment for all of our students. Also, many of our students have not missed a beat despite all of the challenges that they've had to go through this year. Overall, they've adapted to our unique learning environments over the past year, and they're working very hard to finish the school year with a bang. Right, Amelia? Right, Georgia? That's right, that's right. In addition to our hardworking employees, the flexibility from our parents and guardians, along with the support received from our community, are truly, truly what has made it possible for all of this to happen. And now I'll switch gears to introduce this month's superintendent video report to provide updates on all of the wonderful things that are happening throughout our school division. First, we'll take a look at what our high schoolers experienced on their first day back to school as they completed our mission of returning all 3 phases of student groups to in-person learning. Next, in recognition of Teacher Appreciation Week that was celebrated earlier this month, a few of our ITRTs are featured for all of the great work that they've been doing throughout the year to support the teaching and learning process. Then you'll get a chance to hear from Ms. Deetra Johnson, who is the art teacher at the Southside STEM Academy at Compostela. She was featured in the latest edition of People magazine for the virtual art museum that she created to highlight the work of our students during the pandemic. Next, for the second year in a row, students of the Academy of International Studies at Rosemont had the opportunity to speak with students in Wuhan, China, through the initiative with the Norfolk Sister Cities Association. And last but not least, you'll see a group of students at Lindenwood Elementary School celebrating Arbor Day in a fun learning activity by planting trees to beautify their school's campus and the community. And so without further ado, let's play the video.
Late April saw the successful return of high school students to their buildings across the district. At Booker T. Washington High School, excited teachers and staff were ready for the arrival of students, and everything ran safely and smoothly.
It's wonderful. It's good to see the faces of our students returning. It's been over a year since we've seen them, so it feels good to stand out at the bus port and welcome our Bookers back to school.
It's really awesome to have all the students back. And I think it's pretty easy transitions for us to be able to teach them in person and then also teach them online. You know, us teachers we're used to taking in a lot of, different kinds of challenges and, still doing what's best for our students. So I'm really excited to see all the kids' faces back in person in the art room.
Well, I'm here doing a side visit, just checking on transportation to see how the buses are rolling in and whether they're on time, and it's amazing. I mean, things are going really well. This staff here was well prepared. I enjoyed my visit here today. The Bookers are on it.
Across town at Norview High School, students and staff were quickly adjusting to their new environment, and everyone seemed glad to be back together in the building.
So far, so good. Things have been quiet. Students have had a lot of questions, but to be honest, that's a great thing. Class is flowing, teachers teaching, students got their Chromebooks and they're up and working. So far today has been a great day.
Wow, it is amazing. Everyone is focused and on task. The staffs are all ready. Kids are learning. It's as if we picked up where we left off last week. And I'm just so very impressed at how well it's going at all the high schools.
Throughout the pandemic, instructional technology resource teachers, or ITRTs, have been some of the most valuable employees in Norfolk Public Schools. During Teacher Appreciation Month, we're taking a closer look at 2 of our district's best ITRTs.
I think what I appreciate about Ms. Davis is that she's really invested in supporting teachers and students and parents. She's invested in the learning of it. Not just coming in to show you a technology, but to really take that time to invest in what you're doing and understand what you need or what idea you have and how she can support it.
Our job is to teach teachers, so we support the teachers for any technology need. We do on-demand computer training for any software or application that a teacher is interested in, and then the other big part of our job is we're supposed to find out what the teacher actually wants to do, like what the end result is, and then we can suggest a technology that might work for that.
The primary focus of my job as an instructional technology resource teacher is to help teachers integrate technology into their instruction. So that has a lot of components. A lot of it depends on the ability or the confidence of the teacher. So sometimes I have to, take steps slower for those that are not confident, and others they get it and they can just groove on through.
If someone is lacking or having hard times with it, whether it's the Canvas, the Zoom, or you don't understand, she's there to support that. She works with you, and she does one-on-one sessions with you to ensure that you get it and that you got it. She's very valuable. She's a very, very valuable asset to our school. She just is.
Southside STEM Academy at Campus Stella art teacher Deetra Johnson was interviewed by People magazine about the virtual art museum she created for her students during the pandemic. Ms. Johnson, along with a student, parent, and principal Lynthea Willie Clark, were asked a variety of questions about the innovative museum, which features over 200 works of student art.
I never would have even imagined that having done the virtual museum just as a way to showcase the students' work and to encourage them to want to do a good job, to see their pieces in the museum would have turned into something like this. The kids take more pride in the work when they can see it put up and others can see it and appreciate all the effort that they've put into it, and that they can see that they can create.
The PTA meeting, that was the first time we were exposed to the virtual museum, and it was mind-blowing. I was sitting there the whole time and my mouth was just like, and just how everything was laid out. And I mean, it really looked like the kids' artwork was like hanging in a museum.
When Mrs. Johnson sent the virtual museum to me, I said, oh my God, this is so creative. Being online and making sure that the children are still learning and that they're still having fun creating art. When you see that art museum and see the work that has been done by the students, it shows a lot about what her love is as an art teacher and how she made it come alive, even in a pandemic with the virtual art museum.
For the second year running, present and former students from the Academy of International Studies at Rosemont had a discussion with students from China. This was made possible through Rosemont's partnership with the Youth Global Exchange by Norfolk Sister City Association.
It's been awesome. It's an awesome experience, and it means a lot to be able to pull everybody together, again. It's a great opportunity for the children to be able to connect. So I am really grateful that we have been able to pull everybody back together and keep this connection going. I think that it's been a tremendous opportunity.
Students talked about the impact of COVID-19 and how it has affected their education and everyday lives. The hope is that this becomes an annual event.
In celebration of Arbor Day, Friends of Norfolk's Environment partnered with Lindenwood Elementary and some leaders in the city to plant various trees and plants. This event was to give the students of Lindenwood an opportunity to learn about different plants and trees while enhancing their campus grounds.
It's just a really great chance for them to break away from their regular school activities and come outside and enjoy nature on their own school campus in their neighborhood. And we really look for these types of projects where we can be in the community and really enhance their own school environment.
Thank you, Madam Chair Martin, Mr. Jordan, members of the board. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Birdsong. From art to the gardening and technology, it really does look like we just had picked up where we left off. I mean, our schools are very busy. That's wonderful, doing great things. Ms. Tanner, would you like to do the clerk's report?
Yes, good evening, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Superintendent Dr. Birdsong, board members, and our viewers. I would like to share the following recognitions and observances. May 17th through the 21st is AEOPN's Educational Bosses Week throughout Norfolk Public Schools. Special recognitions are given to our principals and administrators throughout Norfolk Public Schools this week, and to you, Dr. Birdsong, congratulations, and our principals and our chiefs that are here today. We thank you for your hard work and dedication to Norfolk Public Schools. Okay, our June observances include National Physical Fitness and Sports Month, Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, Get Caught Reading Month, and June 19th is Juneteenth Emancipation Day in Texas that was created back in 1865. And Madam Chair, this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Tanner. Okay, turning back to our agenda. We do not have any citizens' comments on agenda items nor on non-agenda items. Is that still current? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Okay, and we have, okay, can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda, please?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Gabriel.
Point of order. Madam Chair, we decided that we were going to remove the school board advisory committees.
We did do that before the meeting started.
We did?
It's
refresh your agenda, you'll see it's no longer on there.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry. Can you second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Smith seconded. Go ahead, Ms. Tanner.
Okay. Basine?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Blanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
And Martin?
Aye. And just for clarification, we will be voting on the amended advisory committee applications or recommendations in June. Okay? All right, thank you. Next, we have our monthly financial report. Is Mr. Jenkins going to present for us? Thank you. Please take the podium.
Good evening. Good evening, Chairwoman Martin, Vice Chairman Jordan, Dr. Birdsong, and members of the school board. Are you able to hear me okay? Thank you. During the 10 months ending April 30th, we collected $259.1 million of general fund revenue. That's 76.8% of the operating budget. For the same 10 months in the previous year, we collected 78.2% of the budget. And during fiscal 19, 79.9. So collections are just a little lower than the previous 2 years. On page 3 of the highlights, we see revenue and spending to date. Through April, we've spent or encumbered $255.5 million, or 75.8% of our budget. Again, revenue is $259 million through April. During the previous 2 years, spending for the 10 months ending April was 77.2% of the 2020 budget and 77.8% of the 2019 budget. Again, this indicates spending is just a bit below previous year's levels. Page 4 includes 2 graphs of monthly revenue and spending, this revenue at the top. For each month of the year, the graph displays the current year data through the month of April with red columns. Previous year's information is also displayed in the blue and blue and orange columns. In the background, just hard to see on that shot, is the estimated annual budget. You'll notice that its spending in April 2021 is a bit higher than it is in other years, and that's because there were 3 paydays during the month of April. Starting on page 5, there's more detailed information about our budget status, which if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer. During April, we recorded 2 budget transfers exceeding $50,000. The first was to purchase musical instruments and instructional equipment, and the second was to increase the amount for the facility rental for this year's commencement exercises. Dr. Martin, that concludes my report for April. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to address.
Thank you, Mr. Jenkins. I'm going to open the floor for questions. Mr. Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Jenkins, based upon where we are with our spending and the comparisons to the last couple of years, do you have any projections or sense of whether or not we may end up with unexpended balances as we did the previous 2 years?
Yes, sir, I do believe we will. I don't have the magnitude. I'm not prepared to provide an estimate of that at this time, but we will finish the year with more revenue than we had spent. Yes, sir.
And second question is, have we, maybe I'll address it to Dr. Birdsong and she can refer it appropriately. As far as the process of what's being projected with the American Relief Funds, do we have any sense of, I think we got an indication of what Norfolk schools may receive. Can you just remind us of what that is, and then when we may?
113 million.
I'm sorry?
113 million.
113 million, and that's to be expended over
the next
2
3
years?
years, I believe.
Our deadline for that is September of 2024.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Basine, go ahead.
Well, Mr. Jordan asked part of my question about the projected balance we may have from our spending differences from the years prior. And that led me to the question about, let's see, on page 15, the last page, with the fund transfer to purchase musical instruments. So I'm assuming that's what led me to ask that question about how much we actually may have, and if there is any sort of requirement or deadline of when we might take action on any projected balances going forward. Is there a deadline on that?
Well, we are pretty much at the deadline for getting requisitions through our purchasing departments. Often bids are required,
Okay.
or RFPs are required. So we have deadlines that have passed and some that are coming up for
Okay.
smaller purchases. Under the city's revenue allocation policy,
Mhm.
Surplus funds or reversion funds that are remaining,
Right.
That remain with the school system at the end of the year would, we can ask council to reappropriate those funds or one time aren't lost. I will say that the funds that we will have to carry over will likely include some restricted funds, for instance, funds for I'll call it learning loss, or what the state calls remediation funds. I don't believe that we would have spent everything, so we would have to carry those over. So some may be restricted and some may be
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jenkins.
Thank you.
Do you want to, I move that we approve the monthly financial report?
Second? Is there a second?
Second that motion.
Banner, please call the
Basine?
roll.
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Up next, we have the superintendent's recommendation for the school board budget. Mr. Jenkins, Act 2 for you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You have a budget, you have an agenda item. The last one I'll speak to you with this evening. It's a 22 operating budget. You will recall that we proposed changes to the operating budget last month as we learned both city and state funding projections are greater than we anticipated when we actually developed the 22 budget. The budget approved by the General Assembly and signed by Governor Northam provides $5.2 million more than we expected. City funding, based on their updated revenue projections, provides an additional $374,450. So last month we discussed a number of recommendations for amending spending in light of the additional funds. The list is included in your agenda on pages 2 and 3. Just to briefly summarize, there were increasing wages for faculty and staff, moving 4 positions from the federal special ed grant to the general fund. There was some moving of soft costs from the capital budget to the general fund, replacement of 11 telephone systems in schools, increasing some wage payments for extra duty differentials paid to teachers primarily, and then an increase in the budget for operations and maintenance. With these changes, the general fund operating budget for 22 increased by $5.57 million. The revised general fund budget would total $354.87 million. Total operating budget across all funds would be $468.41 million. This is all summarized on page 3 of your agenda item. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those.
Any questions? Mr. Clanton, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. So just for clarity here, so these are reflective of the items for which we voted on last month, correct? I guess on the amendments that were what we had already at council?
We reviewed them, but you have not taken
vote
any
on them.
action
This
on
is
them as yet.
the night to vote.
Got it. So as far as what city council has approved and sent back to us, these numbers are?
Yes, this, the city council amended our budget by 5.57, the amount shown here, 5.57 million.
Okay, great. And what we have in front of us is the operating budget, and I thought I may have seen in a draft, are we going to talk about the CIP?
We're postponing that until after we get our presentation from Cooperative Strategies on the 2nd, so we'll be discussing it at the 16th, on June 16th meeting and voting.
Okay, so on the 16th of June business meeting?
Yeah, I would have asked Dr. Birdsong to do is have the I wanted to hear what Cooperative Strategies, this will be their final presentation at the end of their contract. And then also I'd like to have the CIP proposal, the funding that was supplied on the previous report that I pulled, that I'm postponing till June. I'd like to see more of a history of alignment on the CIP projects and how that all aligns and with the recommendations from Cooperative Strategies.
Okay, and this will be a presentation from the administration to us on the 16th?
Yes.
And with the expectation, because we have to, I guess, we have to take action before we move into the next fiscal year?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
And, you'll obviously have the report before the 16th, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted to separate them out. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I move to adopt the fiscal year 2020 budget revisions as presented.
Can I get a second?
Second.
That was on. Basine?
Nay. I'm voting no for the same reasons I voted against it originally, which include I support increased pay for our teachers. However, I would like to see a study really looking at pay increases and equity across the board. I'm also would have liked greater focus on social and emotional mental health for students, particularly as we come out of this COVID, as we come through this pandemic, which will have great impacts for years to come. And I don't know that I made that clear the last time we took a vote on this, but I wanted to make that clear today. as to why I'm voting no on the budget.
Campson? Aye. Clanton?
Madam Chair, I'm going to vote aye. Because we didn't necessarily call for discussion, I will say that I'm voting affirmative for the budget. As I've stated before, I believe that the superintendent and the administration have presented us a budget that is in alignment with the current goals that we have, and that this is probably the furthest, the most closely aligned budget to those goals that are meeting our needs. I don't disagree with my colleague in the respect that we will continue, and I hope that we continue to push and encourage our administration as we look down further to look at those various things. But I do believe we have a solid budget today, and that's why I'm voting in affirmative. Thank you.
Gabriel?
Aye, and I'll also add a few comments. This is a very strong budget. We are supporting our staff members who are directly educating our students, and while I definitely look forward to the further studies that the administration has promised us with regards to specifically retention of our teachers who have been long serving in our division, we cannot ignore the fact that we still need to recruit and retain our valuable resources. This budget also, while I know we don't have the CIP in front of us, directly asks for the needs that the division has so necessary with regards to infrastructure. So I will be voting aye for the budget.
Okay. Jordan?
I'll vote aye.
Smith? Aye. Martin?
Aye, and let me just make a comment. I'm sorry, I know it's been a long day. I should have opened it up for discussion before we took a motion. It is in bad form for us to, speak before we vote, so I let that go this time, but please be mindful of the process moving forward. Thank you. All right, next up we have the policy restraint and seclusion, I'm sorry, the restraint and seclusion policy. This is this has been up for 2 readings, today being the 2nd reading. And of course, this was an agenda item for public comment. We have not received public comment today. Go ahead.
Madam Chair, we did receive one.
Oh, we did.
We
okay.
did just via the online portal.
Oh,
and
okay.
the comment was simply that it's been notorious for inappropriate use in education. The restraint has seclusion, has taken kids out of class because it's easiest to do. If it's going to happen, there has to be a learning option in seclusion. However, as you all know, the new policy has no seclusion involved in it.
Okay, thank you. All right, can I get a motion to accept policy JMZ, restraint and seclusion of students?
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
Mr. Clanton, in a second.
Second.
Dr. Gabriel, I'll open it up for discussion. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Smith? Aye. And Martin?
Aye. Okay, next on our agenda is 6.04, renaming of schools community engagement. We had this presentation by Ms. Matthews at our work session on May 5th. And so, correct me if I say this in error, we're going to vote on whether to move forward with the community engagement committee of 1 or of 3 separate community engagement committees. So,
Madam Chair, so I guess that you're asking for a motion for us to place one of those options on the floor?
Yes.
For consideration. Based on the conversation that we had, I move that we move with a committee of 1 with a strong emphasis on equity and diversity amongst the city.
Second.
Mr. Jordan seconded it. Okay, can I open it up for discussion?
So, Madam Chair, to make a motion, I'd like to speak to it first. I think that we had a very, I thank Ms. Matthews for her presentation. And this has been just not isolated to Norfolk, the region, the nation. And I think that being able to have a committee that will allow us to gather the voices of the community and for the community to really send direction to the board in the regards as to where they'd like for us to go. I think that we have a very strongly laid out plan that will definitely allow us to be able to gather those voices. I did place the emphasis about equity. I agree with my colleague, Mr. Jordan, because I talked about smaller separate committees, but I think that if we can achieve that with a larger one committee that can kind of make sure that we have the diversity, I think that objective can be met. So with that, I'm going to vote yes, and I encourage my colleagues to do the same.
Anyone else? Any more comments? Mr. Jordan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to also thank the administration for bringing this forward, and for Ms. Matthews for her work around it. I have one point of clarification to Mr. Clanton as the maker of the motion. Inherent in the motion is that we are moving forward with this, and we're asking the administration to come back with a schedule moving forward. We're not, at this point in time, saying anything that is, we want something back by a specific time, but we are approving the committee piece, and then they'll come back and lay out for us a timeline. Is that the flexibility that's in there?
Well, I thought in the presentation that was given to us, it had a timeline in it. Am I incorrect?
It did have a recommended timeline for at least 6 months, but that's at your discretion. Also, but one of the next steps that I did have included on the last slide was to determine your start date and target date for completion, given everything else that we have going on currently that we're engaging our community on.
Right.
So that would be your discretion as well.
So based on that, I'd like to amend my motion.
Okay.
To add the necessary start date. I think that we have the 6 months.
Ms. Matthews, would you mind, when you say start date, can you clarify what start date means?
When you would all would like to begin with establishing the committee and have them begin the work of engaging the community.
And what was your
the clock would start with the 6 months as soon as you give a date.
What was your recommended start date?
That's a good question. We have a lot going on right now.
Right.
I want to be considerate of what you all are doing for strategic planning, also what we have going on with cooperative strategies. And so I don't know if some of those decisions might need to be made first to consider.
So I mean, we do have a lot going on, but I don't see that changing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would really like to get a firm date from you
Mm-hmm.
before we move forward. I think it just needs to be given some more thought.
Sure. As far as staffing availability from my office, July would be a good time frame at least.
Okay, but I would really like to hear again from you. We'll go with firm up the date,
Mm-hmm.
and then also how you plan to select the committee members and just some more details.
Sure.
Okay, a more mature form plan
Sure.
on this next step.
Sure.
So, Mr. Clanton.
So, Madam Chair, based on that, I'd like to postpone this to our June 16th meeting for action.
So you don't want to vote on?
Well, if she doesn't have a date prepared today, I'd like for them to be able to go back to the administration and for us to be able to take action on the 16th.
Well, what I'm asking, so I'd like for her, we need to vote on a single committee, which is what's on the floor right now, so that she has the direction to go in that direction. So can we finalize the vote on the single committee?
We need a vote on the options.
Now, I understand the options. Okay, so you just want to stay on the single committee and then come back and take a
And
separate
then
one?
when she has a date,
Okay.
she's going to figure out the details of how to put that together with 3 separate schools across the community with diversity and come up with a timeline on when she'll be able to start that.
All right.
Okay.
So I'll go back to my original motion.
Right.
All right.
Okay, and it was seconded by Dr. Gabriel, and I had it open for discussion.
I second it.
Or, I'm sorry, Mr. Jordan. I was going back to the previous one. And anyone else, any other discussion?
And just to be fair, because I guess I caused all this, I just wanted to make sure that we were providing the administration the flexibility to come back and make a recommendation moving forward on a timeline. And that was all I was trying to get clarity around. So the motion is one committee.
Right.
And then we would expect the administration to come back and give us a timeline, and that's what we would get subsequent to that.
Timeline and selecting the community engagement on the one committee, with the one committee design. Should that pass? We still haven't voted on it.
So basically one committee.
One committee.
Okay.
For 3 schools. Right. Any other clarification needed? Okay. Ms. Tanner, please call the roll.
Basine?
Aye.
Campson?
Aye.
Clanton?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Aye.
Jordan?
Aye.
Smith?
Aye.
Martin?
Aye. Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Matthews. Okay, moving on to item 6.05, matters of the board. I'd like to start with our student representative report. Ms. Simpson, welcome. So good to see you both.
Yes, thank you for having us here. We're so happy to be here. And I don't know if I
Hold on, we're going to turn your mic on
Oh,
for you.
she needs her mic turned on. If the red light is on, it's
Hers
not.
is green.
Oh, it's green.
Is it on? Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes, I was just going to report a little bit about the listening session that I was able to attend, and I thought it was a great opportunity. Amelia and I worked to get people involved in it, and then Ms. Passine and Mr. Jordan facilitated such a great conversation that not only made me optimistic about the future of Norfolk Public Schools, but I think everyone that was in that session remained optimistic about the future. And being able to have that conversation with a variety of students from middle to high schools and across different high schools, I thought it was great. And Amelia and I got to be a part of it, and it was great hearing from everyone, and we're so appreciative to all the students that were involved in that. So thank you.
Amelia, would you like to speak about your experience?
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, it was really great to be able to hear the perspective from especially the middle school students, because I'm not really in much contact with them. And even with like the conflicting voices, it was good to see how they were arguing for their points and standing up for what they thought should be happening within the school system and the changes that they wanted to see being made. I wasn't able to attend the entire meeting, but from what I did hear, some really good discussions, and thank you for inviting me, Ms. Basine.
Were there any main takeaways that stand out for either of you?
The biggest concerns, I think, from this year were just the impact, obviously, of being out of school almost all year, and what the impact on the curriculum moving along was, and in the classroom, how are we going to move forward, in the future? And I think the biggest takeaway was comfort in the fact that we've all gone through it together and that we've all been resilient through it, and that as a community and as a school system, we're going to move forward. We're going to have to keep making adjustments, but ultimately we are moving forward, and in the next few years, we're going to keep making adjustments that are only going to better our schools. And I thought, once again, it helped me remain very optimistic for the future.
Okay, thank you so much for that insight. Okay, now moving on to item 6.05, Part B, the board committee reports. Does anyone have a board committee report? Okay. Mr. Clanton, go ahead.
Not quite sure, Dr. Birdsong, I think the last time we met, we were talking about the governor's school meeting to select their new executive director, but I don't think we announced who that person was. I don't remember Dr. Shika, I think it is, Shakia? Sayak, there he is. So the governor's school has a new executive director, which will be starting this summer.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes with experience, both as a building level. I think she's coming from Poquoson, if I'm not mistaken. And so she'll be taking over this summer. So we're looking forward to working with her and the new leadership and the possibilities that she has with the governor's school.
Great. Well, look forward to meeting her. That's wonderful. Anyone else? Ms. Campson, go ahead.
Oh, well, I wanted to make sure all the committee reports. I just want to, once again, as I do at every meeting, remind everyone that we need to decide what we're doing with Fair Lawn. I'm disappointed that I've kept waiting and I still haven't heard anything about what's happening there. when we have a really good school that I hate to see sitting vacant. And now at this time, I'd also like to add my questions about Coronata. I believe that's just sitting vacant too. And also my concerns about Madison. I think it has 35 students in that big old building. And we definitely need to keep a program for those children, but we should be able to find another location in one of our underutilized schools. If we did that, we could close Easton, Coronata, and Madison, turn them back over to the city. When the city sells them, they will reimburse us to that money to help us with our facilities that are still being used. And I would really like, maybe I'll hear some of that with the cooperative strategies next time, but I have been asking a very long time about Fairlawn. And I feel like we've wasted the opportunity to get it ready now. If we bring the Easton kids over, the pre-K, it's set up for pre-K, but it's not set up for our students with disabilities that are going to need some special things, especially those that are in wheelchairs and things like that. So I feel like we've kind of wasted an opportunity to get it ready to start this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Campson. We are still on the committee reports. Do you have a board committee report?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Smith.
So I'll respond to Ms. Campson with the facilities report, not the full report. I don't have all of my notes with me, but we have not wasted time. So the plan is this summer, Fairlawn, the students who are currently occupying Fairlawn will definitely move to Lake Taylor. Being able to prepare the building to accommodate Easton students, all of that cannot occur along with moving in the summer timeframe and be ready for the 21-22 school year in September. So being able to accommodate Easton students at Fairlawn has to be pushed back. It can't occur
Or back
by the beginning of the school year.
How far back are you pushing it? Maybe December or?
Now that we have to wait for, I think that's going to be done in conjunction with the study from Cooperative Strategies. Once that's all done, we'll know the details of that. It was something else you said that I wanted to address.
Coronata?
Yeah, Coronata. Coronata.
I thought they were still vacant, but I wasn't positive.
It is still vacant, and there are plans for that, and I want to say that one too is included in the study with Cooperative Strategies.
Okay.
I take good notes, but my memory's not good.
You've been noticing that a little bit.
If I had my notes here, I could expand a little more. Dr. Gabriel, do you want to add to any of that?
In the facilities committee, we review some of the upcoming.
A little bit louder.
In the facilities committee, we definitely go over the highlights of what Cooperative Strategies is suggesting. And it's nothing that we haven't seen already proposed in what the community conversations have been. But along those same lines, we did a recap of where we are with Maury High School and the timeline for that and how we want to incorporate, those decisions for Maury with the decisions in the facility master plan. And then Mr. Fraley and his team always give a great update on where they are with the CIP projects that are ongoing year after year, projects they have closed out, projects that they have saved money on, where they're investing them in.
Do you have anything on Madison?
With regards to Madison, not to get ahead of the presentation, but that it's definitely an older building that is in need of great repair and probably something that the division would probably do well with relinquishing that back to the city. It's expensive to keep Madison up.
With about 35
and that's not a
kids there.
secret. That's in the we've discussed that before, but I don't want to get ahead of our presentation and other items.
But thank you both for sharing that information. I really appreciate it.
Any other committee reports? I'll go ahead and share my experience. The Norfolk Public Libraries, the Board of Trustees yesterday went and toured the newest Anchor Branch Tucker Library, and I have to say it's absolutely beautiful. It's located on the south side of the city, right next to the Aquatic Center, and it has it's really well thought out and has just takes advantage of all the views around it. And once that landscape matures, which they've put in a naturescape, once that landscape matures, it's going to be absolutely peaceful and beautiful. And I'm really excited when those doors will open for the community. But we also got to see the children's play area outside, and it has musical instruments and just vibrant colors. It's really something. So it's slated to open in August, so just a couple more months. And so if you get the opportunity to go there and see what they've done, I think you'll be as impressed as I am. It's really nice, and it's not just the building; it's just the whole campus. The way that it all connects is really nice.
Just want to add to that. It was really well thought out and very well planned. The way the outside also connects to the inside, and the outside has a lot of activities for the guests of the library. It has a lot to offer them and to engage in, like the planting, the water,
The water
and
station
yeah.
outside, right.
The water stations and all that. And it'll also be a good place for the school that is next door to it to take advantage of the things that are there at the library.
And also the whole
to
community.
offer.
I mean, community organizations can meet there,
Yeah.
civic leagues and so forth. So yeah, it's really exciting. It's just beautiful. I'm really excited about that.
And the resource rooms, the 2 resource rooms that they have.
And there's a computer classroom and community meeting space. Yeah, it's really, they did a great job. Really well thought out, like you said. Okay, anything else? Mr. Jordan, go ahead.
Just going back to the discussion around the committees, if we can make sure we get the minutes from the committee meetings shared, shared with the board, that'd be helpful. I'm interested in the facilities committee discussion that you just mentioned. I guess the other things that, before we close out the year, I know as we work on the agenda for the remaining meetings, Lake Taylor School was mentioned earlier, so I know we were supposed to get a update on where we stand with the Ingleside students that the board approved a couple years ago. And then also with the educational planning RFP, that, I guess we'll get an update on that, I guess maybe in June before the year is
I
up.
can briefly tell you if
Okay.
that's appropriate.
Yeah, if you're prepared,
So
go ahead.
when that subject came up, the administration did go back to make sure that the children in that cohort were afforded the opportunity to either choose the Lake Taylor School or Norview Middle School, and Dr. Gibson did much of the legwork on that. So I can confirm that those children were given the opportunity. They were given a choice. I can't remember the specific numbers. It was not more than 20, I believe, that chose that option. 17 did select that option
Which option?
of going to the Lake Taylor School.
Okay.
Okay, I'll follow up because I thought we were considering more beyond just getting the clarity on how many made the choice. But I can follow up on that just so I'm clear.
Truly, I thought that's what the question was about. If the children were afforded the opportunity, and if so, who are the children and how many?
Right, I was just trying to determine whether or not the students who are do we have students in the previous or in the existing Ingleside attendance zone who have the option of the Lake Taylor School or the Norview Middle School?
The children
And if
that
so,
were
through what?
approved to have the option did have the option. We did verify that.
Okay. I'll follow
We'll
up.
put this on the agenda for discussion. Okay.
And lost track. Late Taylor School, the minutes. Oh, and also where we are with the.
Educational planning.
Did ask about the RFP, but the other thing was the effort to increase our pre-K enrollment for the upcoming year. If we're doing a blitz
We'll
or
get an
plan or
update on
something,
that.
then
We're prepared.
probably be supportive of that.
Okay. That's it. Dr. Gabriel? And then Ms. Basine?
Okay. Well, actually, she was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
You can go ahead. I need to have a better understanding of how the agenda is being planned out because, you know, like Mr. Jordan asked the question about the Ingleside student community, and then I heard you said when you could just be saying, okay, we can put that on the agenda, but I need to understand how are things getting placed on the agenda. I know that we're going through the governance training process with how the agenda is being formulated, and so if we're going to wait for that process to come forth, I'm fine with that. But if we're still going through the motions of pre-K, fair lawn, you know, other things like that, can you?
I'm taking those requests, but
Okay.
there are, you know, we do still have that monthly agenda that hasn't really been updated, but of course it's pretty much the same year after year that we check in on. We also, we prioritize by deadlines. Of course, you know, the administration has some deadlines that they need to meet, and so we have those discussions, and we try to make sure that we have the agenda set up so that at our work sessions we get the discussions, and then we vote at the business sessions. This isn't necessarily the time for future agenda items. I'm allowing it right now. Just because I have it on the list doesn't mean it's going to be put immediately on there. It means that it's reviewed every time we have agenda planning. And considered, and then we prioritize from there. AJ and Cindy have sat in with us on an agenda planning session, and so to try to talk through what's forthcoming of what we're going to be looking at as, you know, discussing the agenda process moving forward. So there's a lot of, I guess, art and science that goes into the agenda planning, as you know. Okay. Ms. Basine, did you have something? Go ahead.
I do, and this may have come up already, or may already be planned by you in agenda planning. But you know, we've talked, you know, even through the budget discussion as well as our in-person learning update that we received at the last meeting. There still seems, I get the sense that there is still some confusion or maybe lack of clarity around what our plans are for next year in regards to whether we're having 5 days, 5-day in-person learning for all of our students. And, you know, I would just, I guess, urge, or just as a board or administration, if there is a clear plan or if there are plans for clear communication around that.
Well, it was in the presentation that we were going back full time, 5 days a week, and with the online options of VSA and, you know, and of course Virtual Virginia as well. But as of this past week, there hadn't been a formal announcement just yet.
Right,
unless I
and
missed
that's
it,
the
yeah.
piece. That's the piece.
It's being developed.
Because as you know, people don't necessarily go to board docs to look for that. We should be communicating that out to our families. And as they plan for next year, I think I've gotten a lot of messages about that.
Yeah. And I had emailed Ms. Matthews about it, and she responded that she's working on that communication. So we should expect that soon. Mr. Gordon?
Well, could I just ask a follow-up question to that? Because I guess I'm asking then, I know we got the update at the work session. Is the board going to vote on what it is that we are doing in September, or is the board not voting on it? As we've done the back to school and so on and so forth, the board is taking votes. So I just wanted, my expectation was we were still coming to bring to the board what it was we were going to be doing in September. Is that not the case?
I wasn't planning on voting for, Dr. Birdsong, can you please go back, just for clarification, because the governor has
Senate Bill
recommended.
1303,
Yeah.
5 days a week. That's our plan that we presented
That's what it was
during the
based on.
last board meeting. We also want to offer the VSA option for parents who still want to keep their children at home in grades 4 through 12. We talked about even today our needs with early literacy. That was the primary reason we made the recommendation, or we feel the need to have our pre-K through third grade children with us in person 5 days a week.
So that's what I was trying to get clarity on. So in the VSA, so I have a concern about the VSA recommendation, and I thought there were like 4 options that were being discussed. And in light of the when we looked at the VSA data and we were showing significant enrollment of African American students in the VSA that may be a part of some of the concerns around the pandemic and the safety of the pandemic, I think if we're just going down that path, I'd just like to see some clarity around what we will be doing with intentionality to make sure that those students that are in the VSA or Virtual Virginia, whatever the online options are, that their academic needs are being met. So that's why I was anticipating more around that. So I apologize if I was wrong, but that's what I thought we were doing, because I thought that was what we've been doing at each phase of return to learning, whether it's been virtual or hybrid or whatever the next phase was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is the first I'm hearing. I thought everyone was satisfied after the last presentation, so.
No, I raised it. I raised it at the time as well.
Okay, I apologize then.
I've always said 5 days a week, as long as we don't have some type of crisis with
Right,
the pandemic,
right.
and we can implement the mitigation strategies. That's what I've always.
Well, that's the CDC recommendation as well, so, okay.
But I do say, you know.
All right, we'll, okay, noted, and we'll discuss it off. Figure out how we'll handle it moving forward so that you have the information that you need. Okay. Jane, go ahead.
And the other piece of that is, and I don't ask this to put Dr. Birdsong on the spot, but I don't know if there are plans now that the approval has gone through for the 12 and up, if the school division is, planning vaccine clinics for, yes? Okay.
Absolutely are.
Okay,
We're in the
great.
final planning stages of that.
Excellent,
For our
great.
middle school kids, yes.
Great, thank you for that
We're on it when
information.
it was announced.
Bravo. Bravo.
Anything else? I know you guys can't get enough of each other today.
Ready.
All right, well, thank you all for an excellent meeting and governance training. It's been a long day for you all, so please be safe driving home, and I'll adjourn the meeting.